Welcome to Top Amazing Fact. If I told you I'm a friend of Bill W., asking for a visit from Dr. Brown after a rough Operation Bright Star, you might think I've completely lost it. But here's the thing, everything I just said is packed with hidden meanings. It's a secret code, one that's easy to understand if you're in on it. Our world is filled with these secret codes, hidden in plain sight, in airplanes, jewelry, dating profiles, and even banknotes. Today, I'm here to crack them wide open for you. So, let's dive into this world of secret codes and discover what you're not supposed to know. Flight crew codes. During a flight, pilots are always in touch with flight attendants and air traffic control to provide updates about the journey. Most of these messages are pretty straightforward. However, if there's an emergency, they use secret codes to communicate without alarming the passengers. One of these codes is called a squawk code. It's a 4-digit number that a pilot can enter into a transponder device in the cockpit, which instantly sends a message to air traffic control on the ground. Different squawk codes relay different information about the flight. And while the specific codes can vary by country, there are 3 main emergency codes recognized worldwide. The universal squawk codes are 7600 for radio communication failure, 7700 for any general emergency, and 7500 for a hijacking. Code 7500 is the most serious one, used only when the aircraft is being forcibly taken over. The way the transponder works means pilots don't have to say these codes out loud, so you won't hear a pilot announcing a code 7500 over the intercom. However, if you ever hear 2 flight attendants mention 7500 and look concerned, they're likely discussing a potential hijacking. That's definitely unsettling. But not all codes used on planes are that intense. Some are actually quite mundane. For example, if you hear a flight attendant talk about blue juice, they're not referring to a new drink option. It's actually a code for the blue chemical-filled water used in airplane toilets. So, if they mention a blue juice emergency, it means there might be a toilet issue or, worse, someone made a mess. Personally, I'd rather stick to my orange juice. Cryptic criminals. While secret aircraft codes can help warn about criminal activity happening in the sky, down on the ground, some secret codes are used by the criminals themselves. In the UK, there have been several reports of crafty burglars using chalk to mark homes with secret symbols. These chalk drawings are made on the walls of houses or on the sidewalk outside, and are used to share information with other criminals without the homeowner knowing. According to police, these symbols can mean different things. An X might indicate a good target for burglary, a capital D could mean a house is too risky to rob, and a flower might signify that the home belongs to a wealthy person. Some symbols have even more sinister meanings, like an open book suggesting the homeowner is a vulnerable woman. In 2015, police in Lanarkshire, Scotland, warned locals that these symbols were being used to mark homes as burglary targets. Police in Surrey, England, issued a similar warning back in 2009. While there's not much evidence to suggest these symbols are widely used today, especially outside of Great Britain, it's always better to be cautious. So, the next time you see a kid drawing with chalk on the sidewalk, maybe keep an eye on what they're sketching, just in case they're a burglar scoping out their next target. Drifter drawings. Now, let's take a look at another group of people who used secret street drawings to communicate. In the 1930s, America faced the Great Depression, a massive economic downturn that left millions in poverty. During this time, more than 2 million people in the United States were homeless, and many of them chose a life on the move, drifting across the country in search of work. These displaced people often traveled by hitchhiking or hopping on freight trains, and they developed a system of coded symbols to communicate with other drifters along the same routes. Known as hoboglyphs, these symbols were often drawn or carved on train stations, mailboxes, and street signs, passing along crucial information to fellow travelers. For example, 2 interlinked circles meant the local police weren't friendly to homeless people, while a carved cat on a house's side signaled that a kind lady lived there. A carved crucifix indicated that pretending to be Christian and talking about the Bible might get you a meal at that spot. On the other hand, a 4-pronged shape inside a box warned about a nearby vicious dog. These markings help drifters stay safe and find food and shelter while on the road. When entering a new town, they could look for signs that led them to the welcoming house of the nice old cat lady, while also knowing to steer clear of the trigger-happy farmer who didn't want anyone on his land. Mickey's Mysteries. Next up on our code-breaking adventure is the most popular amusement park in the world, Disney World. Disney World aims to be the happiest place on Earth, so it's crucial that guests remain blissfully unaware when something goes wrong. To keep things under wraps, Disney employees use coded language to communicate secretly about less than magical moments. For instance, if you're walking down Main Street USA and hear a staff member mention code V over the radio, it means someone has thrown up in the park. With all the candy kids eat at Disney, this code gets used pretty often. Some employees might even refer to vomit as a protein spill to keep things discreet. Similarly, if a staff member calls out code Winnie, it means someone has peed in one of the resort's pools, a code named after Winnie the Pooh's bright yellow fur. Some codes are even more unusual. Believe it or not, some people are so obsessed with Disney World that they want their ashes scattered in the park after they pass away. Disney strictly forbids this, but reportedly, families still attempt to scatter their loved ones' ashes somewhere in the park nearly every month. So, if you hear Snow White mention a white powder alert, it's not about a dance party happening in Cinderella's castle. It means someone has spotted ashes being spread on a ride or attraction, and they need someone to clean it up. It's company policy for all Disney staff members to learn these codes and use them whenever needed. After all, nothing ruins the magic like guests overhearing talk about vomit, pee, or grandma's ashes being swept up into a dustbin. Let's leave the magic of Disney World behind and head to a place that's a bit less enchanting, the London Underground. The iconic tube, with its colorful map and oddly named stations, can be quite confusing for tourists. But even regular Londoners don't know all the secrets of the Underground, including the many codes used by staff to share information discreetly. For instance, if you're standing on a tube platform, you might hear a strange announcement over the PA system like this: Inspector Sands, please report to the control center. Despite how it sounds, there's no actual Inspector Sands. Instead, this is a code used when there's a small fire on the London Underground or if someone pulls a fire alarm. The code lets staff know about a potential fire without alarming the public. The staff will then check the situation. If it's serious, they'll sound the main alarms and evacuate the station. Interestingly, the London Underground didn't invent the code Inspector Sands. It was first used in theaters in the late 19th century. Back then, if a fire broke out during a play, theater staff would shout fire, which often caused panic. In 1849, a small fire at Glasgow's Theatre Royal led to a stampede when the audience heard a staff member shouting about the fire, resulting in a tragic crush that killed 65 people. After several similar incidents, theaters decided to use a code word to warn of fires without causing panic. Since small fires were often put out with sand, they chose Inspector Sands. This tradition continues on the London Underground, where a stampede in the narrow corridors could be dangerous. Even though modern firefighters use extinguishers and hoses instead of sand buckets, if you pull a fire alarm on a tube platform, Inspector Sands will still come to check it out. Fortunately, fires are rare on the tube, so Inspector Sands doesn't get called too often. However, the London Underground has plenty of other codes that are used daily. Among these are spillage codes that direct janitors to clean up specific messes on platforms. There are 7 numbered codes, each corresponding to a different type of spill. For example, Code 1 is for blood, Code 3 is for vomit, and Code 5 is for broken glass. These codes let janitors know what equipment they need before they arrive. A typical announcement might be, "We have a Code 3 on Platform 2. Yikes! Sounds like it's time to call Mickey the janitor, we've got a Code 5 protein spill." Doctor Who? Now, let's step into the medical world and explore the secret codes used by doctors. In hospitals, there's usually a PA system that staff use to communicate important messages throughout the building. Sometimes, these messages contain code words to share sensitive information without alarming patients. For instance, if a nurse calls for Dr. Brown to come to a specific ward, they aren't actually paging a real doctor. Instead, this code means there's a violent patient in that area, and security is needed. Similarly, a request for Dr. Firestone in a certain ward indicates there's a fire in that area, alerting staff that they might need to prepare for an evacuation. These codes help discreetly convey emergency information throughout the hospital. But that's not all. According to anonymous reports shared with the media, doctors sometimes use coded language to talk about patients right in front of them. In a rather humorous yet slightly concerning example, a hospital worker revealed that if an especially unattractive child is admitted, the doctors might refer to them as an FLK, short for funny-looking kid. However, this term isn't just used for humor. It can also be a practical way to indicate that a baby who appears to have an undiagnosed genetic condition needs further testing, without alarming the parents. In addition to FLK, some doctors confess to using the term RHM, which stands for really hot mom. This term might be used to refer to an attractive mother of a patient. In fact, one doctor shared that they've heard colleagues say they just treated an RHM with an FLK, all while standing right in front of the family. Looks like that kid might need treatment for that burn. Good thing they're already in the hospital, right? Computer error. Doctors might use secret codes to poke fun at their patients, but they aren't the only ones using code words to gossip at work. If you've ever called tech support to fix a problem with your computer, you've probably heard them use technical terms that sound like gibberish to most people. However, some of these complicated sounding words aren't about your computer at all. They're actually directed at you. IT technicians know that many people don't understand tech jargon, and sometimes they use that confusion to insult customers right to their faces. For example, if your computer isn't working, tech support might say the problem is a PEBCAC. This might sound like a complex computer term, but it's actually an acronym that stands for Problem Exists Between Keyboard and Chair. In other words, there's nothing wrong with the computer, the issue is caused by the user who doesn't know how to use it properly. Similarly, a technician might refer to an ID10 problem. When spoken aloud, it sounds like more tech jargon, but when you write it down, the meaning becomes clearer. ID10 spells idiot. Sure, helping people who aren't tech savvy can be a frustrating job, but whether that gives IT professionals the right to insult the people they're supposed to be helping is up for debate. If you ever hear the term PEBCAC the next time you're getting your computer fixed, feel free to call the technician an ID10 and take your business elsewhere. Mutual friends. Let me set the scene for you. I'm at a bar, sipping on a glass of water, when a stranger comes up to me and asks, "Are you a friend of Bill W?" At first, you might think it's a strange pickup line or that the stranger has mistaken me for someone else. But actually, they're using a code to ask if I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, AA. AA is a support group for people recovering from alcoholism, and it places a strong emphasis on privacy. Members of the same group might know each other's first names, but they're expected to keep identities confidential. To protect this privacy, members use coded language when talking about AA in public. If someone wants to know if you're in the program, they'll ask if you're a friend of Bill W. This is a discreet way to find out, referring to Bill Wilson, one of AA's co-founders, without revealing any personal details to non-members. This code can also work the other way around. If a recovering alcoholic is at an airport and feels like they might relapse, they can ask the gate agent to make an announcement asking if a friend of Bill W. is nearby. If any AA members hear this call, they'll come to the gate to offer support and help keep the person away from the temptation of the airport bar. It's a clever system that ensures privacy while offering a lifeline to those in need. Bill W. sure has some great friends. Now, let's switch gears to the world of online dating. According to my Tinder profile, I'm a 6-foot-tall model who loves astrology and long walks on the beach. The reality? Well, it's a bit less glamorous. People put all sorts of things on their dating profiles, and some even use secret codes to share information with potential matches. For example, if you swipe through Tinder long enough, you might see someone with the number 437,737 in their profile. At first glance, these digits look random, but they have a hidden meaning. They indicate that the person has herpes. Since there's no cure for herpes, those who have it live with the virus for life. Most of the time, it's dormant and not contagious. but it can occasionally flare up and be passed to others. The stigma around herpes makes dating tricky for those who have it. So, when online dating became popular in the 1990s, people with herpes wanted a way to connect with others like them without publicly disclosing their condition. They chose 437,737 because, on an old-fashioned telephone keypad, the letters corresponding to these numbers spell out herpes. This code has been used on dating sites ever since, allowing people with herpes to signal their status to those in the know while avoiding awkward conversations. And for anyone curious, a quick Google search of the numbers will reveal the secret. It's a smart way to handle a sensitive situation. Risque rings. When it comes to jewelry, most people think of rings and necklaces as simple accessories, but some pieces can actually be used to send secret messages. For example, a plain gold ring usually shows that someone is married, and a diamond chain might signal that someone wants to appear wealthy. Pretty straightforward, right? But did you know that wearing a black ring on your right hand might suggest you're a swinger in an open marriage looking to connect with others? People in non-monogamous relationships sometimes wear black rings on any finger of their right hand, except the middle finger, to signal they're interested in meeting others with similar lifestyles. But be careful. Wearing a black ring on your middle finger has a totally different meaning. It usually indicates that you're a member of the asexual community, meaning you don't feel sexual attraction to anyone. Clearly, this has little in common with the swinger lifestyle. Of course, some people wear black rings just as a fashion choice, without knowing the hidden meanings. So, if you're wearing a black ring for style, you might want to keep it on your left hand and avoid the middle finger on your right hand. Otherwise, you might find yourself approached by couples looking for fun or have your crush mistakenly assume you're asexual. It could be a win-win or a lose-lose, depending on your preferences. Creepy cruise. Cruises are meant to be relaxing, but things can go wrong out at sea. When emergencies happen, cruise staff use coded language to avoid alarming the passengers. For instance, if you hear a staff member announce Operation Bright Star over the PA system, it means there's a medical emergency on board. If you hear Operation Rising Star, it means that a passenger has passed away. These situations aren't as rare as you might think. Cruise ships often carry thousands of elderly passengers on long trips filled with overeating, learning how to salsa, and competing for deck chairs. Unfortunately, about 200 passengers pass away on cruise ships each year. When this happens, Operation Rising Star is announced, signaling the staff to discreetly move the deceased passenger to a small morgue on the ship until they can be unloaded at the next port. The cruise line doesn't inform the other passengers about these events, as they don't want to disrupt their vacations. So, as guests relax by the pool or enjoy their dinner, they often have no idea that their luxury cruise has taken a more somber turn. What's the time? When I worked as a cashier as a teenager, people often assumed my job was easy. But working in a grocery store is more than just stacking shelves and chatting with customers. Cashiers in big retail stores have to learn a list of code words to handle problems without alarming the shoppers. One of the most serious situations is a bomb threat, and many stores have a specific code word for it. If you're shopping and hear the announcement time check over the intercom, it's a good idea to drop your bags and leave quickly. This code is used when a store has received a bomb threat or when a suspicious device is found. It allows the staff to begin evacuation procedures without causing a panic and to clear the store without revealing the true nature of the emergency. IKEA is one of the stores that uses this code. If it turns out to be a false alarm, they'll make an announcement saying, "Following the recent check, all clocks have been reset." This lets the staff know it's safe while allowing customers to return and enjoy their shopping, completely unaware that they were just at risk. Mysterious money. Hearing emergency codes like time check or Inspector Sands can be pretty scary, but bomb threats and fires are rare. So chances are you'll never encounter them in real life. However, some secret codes are much more common, and you might even find the next ones hidden in your wallet. It may surprise you, but if you try to photocopy a banknote, most photocopiers will show an error message or refuse to print a clear copy. Even if it does print, the image will often be distorted. The same thing happens if you try to edit a banknote in Adobe Photoshop. it just won't work. Pretty clever, right? Back in 2002, a security researcher named Marcus Kuhn set out to figure out how these devices and software can recognize real currency and prevent counterfeiting. He studied several banknotes from different countries and discovered they all had a pattern of circles arranged in a specific way. This pattern, he found, appeared on banknotes worldwide, although it was sometimes hidden in the design. For example, on the Australian $5 note, the pattern is hidden in some flowers in the top right corner. While on the back of the US $20 note, the zeros and the number 20 are arranged in a distinctive shape. Kuhn called this pattern the EU-Rion constellation because it resembles the Orion constellation and appears on euro notes. Once he went public with his discovery, people started spotting the EU-Rion constellation on banknotes everywhere. However, no government or corporation has officially acknowledged its use, and the technical details remain a secret. What is clear, though, is that the pattern exists, as most photocopiers automatically detect it when scanning images of money. After Kuhn's discovery, many people assumed that photo editing software like Photoshop also looked for the EU-Rion constellation. But in 2003, a professor named Stephen James Murdoch found that these programs could still detect currency even when the EU-Rion pattern was hidden. It turns out that apps like Photoshop actually look for a different set of hidden codes. Banknotes are covered in tiny, complex line patterns, which editing software scans like a barcode on a product. This helps the software determine if the image contains a real banknote. If it does, the software blocks any attempts to modify, replicate, or print the image, preventing users from counterfeiting money and avoiding a visit from the authorities. FBI, open up. Secret sculpture. Let's move from a secret code used by international governments to a code that even the world's best code breakers haven't been able to crack. Kryptos is a sculpture located at the George Bush Center for Intelligence, the CIA's headquarters. Given that the CIA is known for its secrecy, it's fitting that Kryptos is a particularly mysterious statue. The sculpture features 4 large copper plates covered with encrypted messages made up of jumbled letters. So far, 3 of these 4 sections have been solved by brilliant codebreakers who discovered patterns in the seemingly random letters, using various decryption techniques to uncover the hidden messages. These decrypted messages contain GPS coordinates, references to Tutankhamun's tomb, and quotes from famous books. However, the 4th section remains unsolved, making it one of the most famous unsolved puzzles in the world. Even though Kryptos is located at the CIA's headquarters, the agency itself has tried and failed to solve the final code. The only people who know the solution are the ones who created it. The sculpture was a collaboration between artist Jim Sanborn and Ed Scheidt, a former CIA officer who was the director of their cryptographic center from 1963 to 1989. Sanborn designed the sculpture, while Scheidt created the code that it displays. Kryptos was completed in 1990. Initially, the world's top cryptographers made good progress, decoding the first 3 messages by 1998. But since then, no one has made any headway with the 4th and final section. After nearly 40 years of attempts and failures, it seems like Kryptos might never be solved, securing its place as the ultimate secret code. And with that, we're wrapping up our code-breaking journey for today. Which secret code surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching.